Imagine being a multi-billion-dollar foundation. Hell, not even a billion-dollar one, but a trillion-dollar foundation. You control the world basically. You own everything in a sense. And yet, you still use a simple 9-volt battery to power your hand tools. If you've played SCP Containment Breach, you will know what I'm talking about. At first glance, this might seem like a lazy game design. The developer needed a battery for their items, and instead of making their own design, they just grabbed a design from real life and called it a day. Case closed. But if you were to start digging deeper into the lore, the dollar store battery starts to make sense. It's a calculated security protocol, and to understand that, we have to look at how the Foundation actually operates. Take a look at the SCP Foundation. It's basically the richest thing in the universe. They have trillions of dollars, and they can do whatever they really want to. They can take what they want to, and if a country doesn't agree with them, they can just threaten the country by not capturing an SCP in their land, which basically makes them the king of the world. So they do have a lot of money, so why can't they just produce their own batteries? They already produce some of their own stuff, like amnestics, can counters, and reality anchors. So why not just produce their own batteries? Well, there are two main factors that plays into the role: cost and privacy. I just mentioned that the SCP Foundation has trillions of dollars. Actually, they just have all the resources in the world. But there is a hidden cost, and that's the world economy. If they were to start producing their own batteries, it would cost money, not for them, but for the world. And people would start to notice. If for some reason a material were to start costing more, without any reason, then they would start to get suspicious. This also plays into the privacy. If they were to produce their own batteries and accidentally lose a crate full of those batteries, and the public were to find them, that would spawn many conspiracy theories. So if they can't produce their own batteries, why not just use an SCP as a battery? Well, the problem here is, if a group of interest, like the Chaos Insurgency, were to raid a site that contains these battery SCPs, they would not just only get SCPs in their hand, but the Chaos Insurgency, in this example, would gain a very powerful SCP for their own tools and needs. So why not just don't use batteries? Well, the simple question is, energy cannot be made from nothing. Night vision goggles needs to be powered. The SNAV in the game also needs to be powered. Now, you could tie this back to using anomalous materials like an SCP, but that ties back to the problem before, that if a group of interest were to capture it, that would be a major problem. So, to answer the question why the SCP Foundation in Containment Breach uses 9-volt batteries, I have 3 simple answers. It's simple, fast, and dirty. A simple 9-volt battery has 2 ports, a ground and a positive terminal. The negative terminal is normally made out of zinc, while the positive terminal is made out of magnesium dioxide. And why is this important? That's because a 9-volt battery is simple and uses abundant raw materials. Materials like zinc, magnesium, and manganese dioxide and steel are cheap and non-toxic, and because they are cheap, the SCP Foundation can mass supply them to their sites, meaning they are just not saving money, but also hiding themselves from the world economy. And going back to the example there, where I talked about the SCP Foundation producing some of their own stuff, like amnestics and the reality anchor. The reason for that is no one makes them other than the SCP Foundation. No one must know of those existence. Hundreds of companies make simple 9-volt batteries, but no company makes anchor points or amnestics. And adding to the fact that everyone knows how a 9-volt battery looks like. In case of a containment breach, like in the game, you know a 9-volt battery is a battery because it looks like one, and the character in the game most likely knows how to use it because they've used it their whole lives. If they were to make their own batteries, they would maybe even need to train their personnel on how to use them. So they save money from buying 9-volt batteries, they don't need to train their personnel, and they are easy to use. Assuming you've played SCP Containment Breach, you will have stumbled upon SCP-914. Everyone knows what it does. It can either upgrade or degrade items. If you take an 8-volt battery and put it to 1-1, you will get an 18-volt battery, which we'll talk about later. And if you were to put an 8-volt battery into very fine, you will get a strange battery. If you pick up the strange battery, you will get killed immediately from an execution. And I assume this because the battery must have a lot of power. Therefore, this proves that having a battery with maybe even thousands of volts and amps isn't really the best idea to place next to a human, because one wrong move can kill them. But the SCP Foundation doesn't just use 9-volt batteries. They also use 18-volt batteries. Like I mentioned before, if you place an 8-volt battery into 914 on 1-on-1, you get an 18-volt one. Now, you can't really use this except for one item, the radio. The radio allows you to put the 18-volt battery in it, meaning the SCP Foundation in Containment Breach uses 9 and 18-volt batteries. So basically, the conclusion is, the SCP Foundation doesn't really need to reinvent the wheel if there's already something that works like it. If you think a battery is interesting, then you might just also want to know how SCP Containment Breach got so big and became the standard for SCP games. Well, that breakdown is on screen, and if you enjoyed today's video, consider subscribing.